Are there figures, Gabriel, on arrivals into the country and how that's affecting the rate of COVID infection here?
No, there aren't, and it's a terrible pity that there aren't really strong data supporting decision making about this. But that just emphasises how lax the controls are. We know the virus came to Britain and Ireland from abroad, and we know that it has continued to come. For example, at the end of the summer, the Spanish variant came to Ireland by means of international travel, probably returning holidaymakers or alternatively tourists, and it very quickly became the dominant virus in the island. So we know the virus does come, we know it spreads, and we know that there isn't really any barrier to that spread, which is particularly now, I think, Sean, particularly now when we know that there are dangerous variants cropping up across the world. Having open borders to the virus is really, really bad news.
And indeed, as has been widely reported, there were around 1,500 people arrived from Brazil in the last 2 weeks, and there is a Brazilian variant that we haven't. I don't think it's been detected here yet, but that doesn't really look good.
No, it doesn't. And these variants, so far, what we've seen is there's a real probability that they increase the transmissibility of the virus, so it's easier to catch this particular variant. What is most worrying is that variants will pop up, and they will pop up as long as there's plenty of virus circulating and spreading and replicating. That's what produces these mutants. Those variants could possibly dodge the vaccine or produce even more transmissibility or some other really nasty effects of the virus on those that get infected. So the only safe way to deal with this virus is really to keep it at arm's length. And from a country's point of view, that arm's length means putting controls on your ports and airports.
Are there countries that one could say are the gold standard or as close as we can get in terms of introducing travel quarantine?
Oh, there are very large numbers. Just for interest, a couple of weeks ago, I took a list of and there's a great website called Worldometer, and I went through the long list of countries that they had data for about COVID there, and I picked out 61 island countries, either just one country on one island or maybe sharing an island as we do in Ireland with 2 jurisdictions. Anyway, I went through that list, and right up at the top were Britain and Ireland, because most islands have done it really, really well. And there are the well-publicised ones, like, well, Australia is a continent more than an island. It's just huge. New Zealand, Taiwan. Taiwan's had a fantastic record. Closer to home, the Isle of Man, very close to home. The Isle of Man has done a good job. Guernsey, one of the Channel Islands, another small island, doing a good job. So there are plenty of examples of really industrialized countries, really densely populated countries like Taiwan, or countries with very dispersed population like New Zealand, or tiny populations. All sorts of islands can do this if they want to. And if ever there was a time to want to do it, let's do it now.
And does that, in nuts and bolts terms, that involves if you arrive off a plane, you're put on a bus and you're sent somewhere and you're kept there for the next fortnight?
Yeah. Well, it means replacing what we've got at the moment, which is kind of voluntary isolation. When you look at the guidance that is available, it's full of advised and requested and should, with a kind of must. And the must is that you must be in managed isolation so that everyone can be sure that it will be adhered to. And one of the great errors, I think, has been when we've had this kind of voluntary self-isolation going on, we haven't really monitored it to see what proportion have observed it. And the feeling is that it's really quite small. But it's not. It's like trying to keep the water out with a sieve, and we can't have that really if you want to get the virus under control in the country. As Ireland did, north and south last summer, 0 deaths for day upon day upon day. North and south, really small number of cases, single figures daily cases in the north, and in the low teens in the Republic. Now, that virus resurged again, and the only place it could come from really was from outside. And I think we had large numbers of people bringing the virus to Ireland's shore because there were no defences in place.